Last week we've talked about e-commerce platforms, right? We looked at several platforms that allow us to build an online shop or start an online project whenever we wanted to. Because obviously the biggest challenge in today's world is actually to build something from scratch, because you require so much technology, skills, programming skills, I don't know, all sorts of other JavaScript kind of guidelines as well, PHP or whatever database you're using. So it can be quite hard. Now, this week what we want to talk about is really looking at understanding customer journeys. Now, what customer journeys are? Customer journeys are pretty much a process or a path that the typical customer takes to get to your through to your landing pages or to checkout process. So we really want to know what happens when somebody comes to your website, not what happens next until they actually leave the website. Now, why customer journey is important? It's because it helps us to understand and obviously pick up on areas that we can improve our conversion rate. Now, what do we say our conversion rate is? Conversion rate is a desired action that we want our customers to take. Now, a desired action could be a sign-up process. It could be a buying goal that you want. Well, you might set yourself goals that you want customers to buy specific products, or it could be just a subscription into an email list. Okay? Or it can just be a download or a sign-up process. So a desired action is something that you, as an owner or as the manager of an e-commerce site, set yourself. Alright? But remember, it's not always about buying. Conversion rate can be about other things too. So it's quite important to get that right. Now, conversion rate is an essential metric to actually start to understand how well you're doing. Because according to conversion rate, obviously we start to tell which are the areas in the website that we do very well. Now, when we look at the customer journey, we start to create a bigger picture about what is the path, what is the infrastructure in place that allow us to understand how well we're doing when we have customers coming from different parts of the website. Now, same as this large room, we've got two doors, right? Well, students, you guys will come maybe from the door on my left or the door on my right, right? But if we put a chair in there, right, it's going to be a bit dangerous, right, for people to come in. So it's a similar type of thing with e-commerce. We've got to make sure that there are no barriers to different parts of our e-commerce site. So when people come at different doors, right, it's actually fine and it links well with the rest of the website. So it's like a good map. It's a clear map for customers that come into the website and then take it from there. Now, according to research that we've done recently, but also kind of analysis that we've done with online stores, is that we kind of came up to some of the key points on why customers just don't buy, right? So we need to start from here to give you a bit of perspective about why this is so important. Now, more or less, 1 to 8% of customers, well, 1 to 8% of customers do actually buy. So, obviously, out of 100 customers, maybe if you do a very good job, maybe 3 or 4 of them would actually buy. Everyone else would just come, browse the website, search around, and then just leave. Right? So when we look at this, actually the conversion rate is very small. Now, the question you should ask yourselves is actually, how much can I afford to have people come to the website, browse around, check things around, and then don't buy anything? Okay? But the other bit that's quite important is that when you start analyzing the journey that customers take when they're on your website, you start to pick up areas that you can improve. And that's why understanding customer journey is really important. Okay? Next thing, obviously only 30 to 50% of customers who add things into their basket will actually buy. Now remember, this is another interesting data, an interesting piece of information, because it just gives us an idea that even those customers that decided to add things into the basket, they just suddenly go and leave or delete their shopping list in the basket and they just don't buy. or they're just adding things into their shopping basket because they want to see how much it will actually cost them. They could even be in the real store, right? And they're just going online in your e-commerce website to see how much it will actually cost. And then as soon as they see that in the store that they're buying is cheaper, they're not going to actually buy from the e-commerce site. And how many times you went into the traditional store, right? And then you said, oh, that's a bit expensive. You went straight on eBay, you said, ooh, only $2.50. And it's a free delivery. And of course, you just wait, maybe you'll buy straight from there, or you just wait and go back home and actually buy from eBay. Now, you can see how complex sometimes this process is. And that's why understanding every piece of this journey is really important. The other bit, of course, is the fact that customers, as I said earlier, window shop. They just come around, they search for the products, they compare prices, they start to get an idea and understanding about the cost. And so they're not going to buy. They're just going to check things around, they won't buy. Okay? Now, there is another group of customers who maybe, as I said to you earlier, they're just checking the price, comparing, searching online and buying offline. Sometimes more research lately suggests that actually there are lots of customers who search offline and buy online. Because when you search offline, you've got a limited options, right? How many stores you can visit in 3 hours' time? Unless you're in a shopping center. Even if you're in a shopping center, realistically speaking, you can't really visit more than maybe 8 or 9 stores or something like that. If you really want to pay attention, sometimes try some of those items, some of those clothing or whatever you want to buy, it'll take you at least 2 to 3 hours. But online, imagine how many e-commerce websites you can visit in an hour. And of course, that's why e-commerce is so limitless to what you can do, that actually makes total sense for people to kind of go search offline and actually go and buy online. So it works both ways. Now, the other bit, of course, piece of information that's quite important is that when websites do not render well, especially e-commerce websites, and it takes a lot of time to load up, right? Actually, there are lots of people who just forget it and then move on and they don't buy. Because customers hate to wait. One of the things that we hate most of the time, whether we're shopping online or offline, is the fact that we lined up there queuing up and we've got so many other things to do in a day and we have to wait, queue up for another half an hour just so we can pay for 2 items. Especially in a busy day, right? And it's the same online. Customers hate to wait. Like if you make them wait while they sign up a form and then they add their credit card details and then they do something else and the credit card details is not correct and then the address is not correct and blah 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 and the email is not correct, and then they just get to the point and say forget it. And most of the time they will not buy if they have all these barriers in their way. Why? Because there's so many other choices that they can choose from. And it's absolutely important to keep that in mind, because with the web, as we said a few weeks ago, you can have competitors from anywhere in the world today. That's the thing with the web, right? It gives an opportunity to everyone that has got an idea and has got a business to start selling. So you can have competitors competing for the same customers from anywhere in the world today. Whereas with a traditional store, or you can have maybe some of those 3-4 competitors that you have in the street where you sell it. Now, when it comes to customer journey, it's important to understand another element that kind of helps us build a bigger picture. And that is to start to think, where do customers start? Okay? What is the starting point? Now, the starting point is not always an e-commerce website. And it's quite important that you realize that. The starting point can be all sorts of places, but it starts most of the time with a problem or an idea or a need that somebody has, right? Now, that is the main thing. The next is probably a point where somebody starts to search in their social networking channels about the brand or talk to their friends. Oh, what do you think? I want to buy a bike. What do you think? I was thinking of this brand or that brand or this one. Which one should I go for? So you kind of inform yourself before you're actually getting into an e-commerce site. In fact, you're qualifying yourself to which shopping site you're going to go. Some times ago, we pretty much had Google search and then e-commerce. But now things have changed. Now we have the social networking space, all of these hundreds and hundreds of social networking channels, and then we have Google, and then we have e-commerce. So things have changed a lot. Now, that's why I'm saying it's absolutely essential to understand that shopping journey doesn't start with e-commerce. It just probably ends with e-commerce. Okay? But in most of the cases, we'll look at some of the points in customer journey now, and you should understand that actually it shouldn't totally end with e-commerce because you need to start building up a relationship with your customers as soon as they checked out. And telling them that you're genuinely interested to build a relationship with them. You're not just trying to get them to buy an item. So it's not like a transaction-based relationship, but actually a long-term relationship, where we want to keep up to date with you guys. I want to let you know when we have new products. I want to let you know when we have special deals and things like that. And ultimately, I really want to hear from you whenever you've got a question about our product or you can't get things around your product. Okay? Now, so we said, it starts with an idea, it starts with a purchase in mind, or a problem that you might have. And in the past, we had Google as a searching starting point, but now things have changed. So in most cases, it could actually be a social networking channel that you use as a starting point when you're about to buy something. And then you go and talk to your friends, maybe you even create a group on Facebook where you just talk about the product that you want to buy. Or you just start a group chat with all your friends and say, okay, I want to buy a bike, which one do you recommend? I was thinking of this, I was thinking of that. What's your view? And then there started to be a discussion. So it's like a pre-qualifying session that happens within a social networking channel that the brand don't even know, they're not even aware of it. So by the time that individual has moved from that discussion to an e-commerce site, they already made their mind. Because as soon as he or she has decided what to buy, one of the friends has already sent the link, saying, oh, by the way, you agreed on this one, that's the link where you can buy. And that's an important element, and that's what my research interest is now as well, because I really want to know what's the role of these social channels to actually build these relationships with customers. And trying to pick up on areas that brands can focus, or also build up a framework that I could share with brands and say, this is what you do to be able, these are the steps that you need to follow to be able to build up a relationship with customers, so then next time they're kind of like, go on your social networking presence that you have on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, and then from there they'll come to your website and actually convert. So you can see that a bit of conversion happens even before a customer is actually in an e-commerce website. And that's quite interesting, because that gives us some ideas of the power of social networking channels. Until now, the power was most of the cases with Google search, right? Because all you did, you either called your friends or you went and started with Google search straight away. And then depending on what Google gave you, you checked on the ratings, comments, and products, and things like that, and then you made up your mind which product you want to go for. But in this case now, all of these discussions, they're changing everything. How many times you had an idea about the product you wanted to buy, but then you went on your Facebook, started to talk to your friends, and that just changed. Because some of your friends already made those reviews or looked or had that kind of product and said, I don't recommend you buy it because I already tried it and it's not good enough. I would suggest you go for this. Or I've read more positive reviews on X product and you should try that one instead. Okay? So we are so much influenced by our friends and community and our social communities around us that is incredible. Of course, with the help of social channels. So that's an important element to keep in mind. Now what happens next? Of course, the next thing is to understand where do people land into the website. And there are several areas. One of the most popular one, obviously, is the homepage. That's the place where, in most cases, your customers end up coming along. But another very large part of customers that actually come in the landing pages. Okay? Now, landing pages are those pages that are designed and tailored to sell specific products. Brands decide which are those specific products they want to sell, and there is nothing else but just selling and selling and selling. Just directly tailored to selling specific products. So, in this case, they might come in a landing page that has been promoted through Google advertising or social networking, and then customers come into that landing page. But then how good that landing page is designed to help them move from the point where they add things into the basket to a checkout process. Okay? So that's one thing that you would need to analyze when you start to think about these touch points in an e-commerce website. Sometimes customers land into a blog, an e-commerce blog. Because a company has written something useful, and Google has indexed that article, has ranked quite highly because it gets read more and more often and commented, and then it sends us customers to your blog. But then, how easy is it for those customers to move from the blog to actually the shop and add things into the basket and then move on to the next bit? So you can see that there needs to be a good strategy to connect the dots. And those dots are like touch points in the customer journey. That needs to make sense. And as soon as you make sure that for this process, as soon as somebody has landed into the blog, then there is a good guideline on what happens next before they move into the shopping kind of process and browsing for the product. Sometimes customers come through offers, right? You have special offers that you're offering through social networking channels, whether that's Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever, and then they're coming directly through offers. Okay? And when we make the analogy of the room, right, that has got only 2 doors, you can see with a website, there's hundreds of doors that customers come from. Now, knowing which are those entry points is important. Because then you realize and you start to make an idea about, okay, well, how easy it is for them to buy. The next bit, of course, is sometimes you have customers that come from through a product page. They've been searching or chatting with their friends on social networking channels, and then suddenly they made up their mind in which product to look to, and then all they did was to click on the link and then came into product page where they will probably buy that product. And that's quite, this whole revolution that has happened with social networking channels is quite interesting. So let's look at some of the other elements when somebody has actually landed into the website from a main homepage. Okay? So let's pick up the homepage bit, which is the major, well, the largest amount of users that come into the website. Well, the first starting point, of course, is to understand who are your competitors and how well do they do with their own e-commerce website. What are the things that they do very good? What are the things that they do very badly? So you start up to build up an idea about the things that can be improved. And that's what we call competitive analysis. Most of the research, market research projects you do, the first thing you look at is a competitive analysis. You really want to know what do competitors do all the time. And when you look at even big or smaller brands, you start to see that actually they all copy each other, but just start to change a few little things here and there, and just say, oh, that's what's our thing, right? So, the next thing is, of course, search. Now, searching is an important element in an e-commerce website. Why? Because we don't have time. As a customer, you don't have time. All you want, if you can't find a product, just search straight away and then get to the product, and then if you're interested, buy it in that price. Okay? But the search shouldn't just be a normal search. It should be a smart search. Where as soon as customers start to make the search, start to type the words, it will automatically suggest specific types of products that are available for that inquiry. Okay? And that is what sometimes brands take this for granted and actually do not invest in this facility in the website. The next important element, of course, is the support. And customer support is one of those things that get neglected most of the times by the brands. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, but of course mainly because what? Reducing costs. Let's just start and think of every way possible so we can reduce costs. Let's let's just close our call centers down because they're just so expensive. Let's just try and reduce the amount of customer support team that we have. Let's just try and integrate lots of web forms online, so then all we can do is just receive all these forms electronically and then reply to them, and that's it. So then a job that was meant to be done by 100 people, let's get 3 or 4 to do it. First, we save the cost, and second, we kill those 2 people, those 2 or 3 people. They have to work like 13, 14 hours a day because there's just so much to do. And all you're doing is to squeeze the cost, make customers wait, make them very unhappy about the fact that they chose to do business with you. And of course, on the other side, have members of staff who work so hard and so long hours that they just can't wait to find another job to leave you. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, we have the example of Zappos that we talked a few weeks ago as well, where this company said, no, everyone is shutting down their call centers. We don't want to do it. In fact, we want to make them bigger. We want to get more people to work in the call centers because we know that's an important part, an important channel to provide support to our customers. In fact, we will make sure that we'll talk to our customers as much as they want, because we generally want to talk to our customers. And you know, sometimes when you call a company representative, and you know they just want to get rid of you. Okay, thank you, bye, then finish. Or you want to go and see them in a real store, a traditional store, and you can just see they just want to get rid of you. Oh, what's the question? Yeah, you can do this, you can do that. Okay, is there anything else I can do for you? And then boom, move on to something else, right? So that comes across very easily, and customers do pick up on the very tiny things. And the research suggests that obviously just a smile, a good smile, makes a big difference. Of course, in an e-commerce website, you can't see that, right? But then you can feel it as the customer representative starts talking to you. Now that can be done in different ways. Of course, there is a live chat support that as soon as you're struggling with a problem, poof, a window pops out, and then he says, how can we help? Okay? And as you start talking to that representative, you get an idea how interested they are to help you through that journey. Okay? Now, there are so many other things that companies are doing to reduce the spending that they have on customer support, because customer support in general is very, very expensive. So they're using forms. Sometimes they're also using other people, third-party companies, to provide support for a company and outsource lots of their work to third-party countries, right? And sometimes there are problems with, timing. Sometimes there's a problem with kind of English as well, English language barriers, because you have a customer who starts to call the call center somewhere in India or China, and then there is that barrier in communication. So there's so many things. In fact, that made some UK companies to say, we have English-speaking call centers in the UK. Because customers kind of were fed up with the fact that they had to talk to people who lived in a completely different part of the world, and they had no idea what the problem that customer actually had. So the training that these call representatives have in their own country wasn't good enough. Okay? Now, the other element that is important one is the call to action buttons. Now, call to actions are an important part of an e-commerce website because they help customers move from one point to another. Okay, so they kind of show the journey, so that key point in that customer journey. Call to action, as it says from the word, is getting customers to take an action. Because this way you move the customer from the first starting point to the second, and then maybe to the checkout process. So these are very important elements. Now, companies who do a very good job in getting those call to action right do lots of testing. And that is something that is called A/B testing model, right? Which normally helps companies to design different types of landing pages and with different types of call to actions and test which one works the best. And which one reaches out to more customers and ultimately which one has got an increased conversion rate. And the company that does a perfect job with this one is definitely Amazon. Because they consistently test and experiment with different call to actions and different landing pages and different features. And then they will identify the one that works the best and then they will launch that feature. But we're not even aware of it, because what I see in my Amazon, you might not see in your own profile. Well, it can be shopping history and everything else, but it's not just that. It's actually the features itself, they are different for different customers as well. Why? Because they're testing up regularly. But there are little tweaks that they do that we can't even pick up, right? Because they consistently just test and test through A/B testing elements. And A/B testing is an opportunity to test two types of call to action with two types of different customer groups. And you see which one works the best, and then you focus on developing that one for everyone else. Of course, the other element when it comes to the customer journey is the checkout process. And sometimes the checkout process is not as simple as it should be. Okay, companies sometimes invest so much money to make sure that their website is sleek, is nice, is flat design, is good, and really looks attractive. But the problem is that the customer journey is so long and also so difficult to get through that lots of customers just never convert. The address is invalid, the email is invalid, the credit card is invalid. What are you going to do? Of course, as a customer, you just say, okay, well, there are probably another hundreds of these companies selling these products. I'm just going to go somewhere else. Okay? And sometimes it could be just a little tiny thing, like the address or the postcode is not showed as valid, and then you can't go through that checkout process. Sometimes it just can be a very tiny little something that stops customers from converting. So you start to see how complex this whole thing really is. And you'll be amazed when you start to look at reports and data and published papers on this specific area. Because you'll have thousands of questionnaires that were sent out to analyze customer journeys in different e-commerce websites. And you'll pick up on areas that are so simple and so tiny, reasons why customers just did not convert. And of course, an important tool in here that helps us do that is Google Analytics. Because Google Analytics will give us an idea about what happens when customers come into the website and what happens with the next person before they checked out, and when did they drop out. Okay? And there are so many other tools, right? But that's just one to think about. Now, of course, call to actions are an important element because they really guide us through that process. They tell us what to do, when to move on, why doing this, why doing that. But the biggest problem is that companies mix them. When you look at different landing pages in different companies, you just get confused. Which one is a call to action? Read this, read more, add to the basket, visit our product page, move to next page. Which one is the landing page? It's hard to tell. And you just don't get the second chance to guide your customers because they're going to leave. As soon as you make it so complex, so difficult for them, they'll just leave, right? So that's why A/B testing comes very handy because you start to work out which one is best call to action. Now, if we look at some examples, right, starting from Skype and other companies, you start to make up an idea where actually that call to action is. Now, when you look at Skype, it's simple. Download Skype, that's it. That's the call to action. That's what we want our customers to do. It's no-brainer. Very easy, very straightforward. And then the other one is, of course, the web photo gallery. It's pretty much the same thing. See in action. Boom. Move on to the next thing. Okay? And it's very simple. It takes a second for you to know what you need to do. So in other words, you're guiding your customers, you're assisting them in the way that they're never stuck. But if you get them these things wrong, it's a little bit of a problem. Now things map like an application to organize the to-do list. Now, they've got two pretty much call to action. Now, one says download, the other one says purchase. Now, download, purchase. Which one should we go for? So, in the first instance, when you want me to try your product, you're making it difficult for me. Because when I see download, I'm starting to think, oh, maybe it's free. And then I check the other call to action, it says purchase. Probably it's not free. Maybe it's a free version, this one. That's a paid version. That could
be a developer choice, though.
It could be a developer, right?
Well, if you have a template page,
yeah,
the download could route to the purchase page regardless, depending on how you set it up. So those two buttons could, in fact, be exactly the same thing.
Yeah, so how about trying and saying, well, let's just test these things out before it actually goes live. So we make it so easy for people to say, okay, that's what we want to do. Like Skype, download this, boom, finish. Okay? And as soon as you start to give us too many different call to actions, too many things that actually are hard to make sense of that journey, that becomes a big problem. Another good example when it comes to this, and this was some time ago, I took a screenshot of this because I think I've unfollowed one of the lists and I unsubscribed to one of the things that I was kind of receiving from HubSpot, the marketing company. And what they saying, we already missed how well you close, how we used to be with you and how much we exchange information and everything else. And they have a video here giving us a reason why we should still stick to them. Okay? And in addition to that, how about a second chance and connect with us on social channels? Okay? So you can see how personalized this journey is, really. And I would be interested to know how many people did actually change their mind. I didn't. But how many people did actually change their mind? Because these guys do have lots of content everywhere, because they're content marketing company. Okay? But with a video, in fact, I'll publish the video somewhere if I find. And then you'll see, for the love of marketing, please stick around with us because, you know, we've got so much good stuff for you. In addition, check out our Facebook, our LinkedIn, our YouTube, and our Twitter because there's so much. Please give us another chance. Okay? Now, that's an interesting bit just to see how well they kind of manage. Because in most cases, when you unsubscribe to different lists in e-commerce websites, right, or any other service, let's just say you have been unsubscribed, thank you. It's pretty much, you can go, it's no problem, okay? And very little, only few companies actually put some effort to say, do you want to have a look at this before you just, unsubscribe to our list? Maybe you'll find something useful. Because email is an important element, right? Email is the opportunity that it gives companies to send you offers and special things that you might potentially buy. Okay? In other words, this is what we call permission marketing. We are asking you to give us a permission to connect with you. So then when we send you something, you will know it was HubSpot. That make you change your mind. Because there were some very interesting approaches that they have taken. Now, another good example is actually university. Okay, when you look at some of the free events we organize, now, yeah, signing up for free events is so good and everything else, but now, why would you have to have a checkout process where you're confirming your order, you're confirming everything, that costs zero, that costs nothing? Yeah, of course, we want to get your data, so let's come on and sign up with us for this specific event. But the idea of giving me even the receipt number or something like that for an event that doesn't cost anything, it just doesn't make any sense, right? So, but how can you avoid that? Well, of course you can avoid that by starting to think, which are the key information you need from participants that come to attend the free event? Well, of course you need their email, their contact details, and maybe their address. That's pretty much it. So as soon as they're giving you that details, thank you very much and see you soon. So why would you need a complete shopping process to pay nothing? Okay? So you know, in a way, you're just making it hard for people to go through that journey when they could be doing something else. Now let's look at typical journey, right? Now, according to the research and the work and some projects that we've done in the last 10 years or so, we picked up some of the key areas that we think are going to be essential way of understanding this customer journey. Well, the first thing, of course, is that entry point. Now, we said the entry point is not always necessarily in an e-commerce website, okay? But, of course, we need to know where this entry point is for our brand. Now, how do you do that? Of course, by doing the research, by using different monitoring tools and things like that to start to build up an idea. Where do customers start to talk about your brands, right? And if you start talking about about different brands and social networking channels, you've seen brands come to you, right? They start talking to you. They start to engage in conversations you're having with your friends on Twitter because they picked up through keywords that you're talking about them. And they want to know how they can help. Right? So that could be an entry point we actually move into the website. The next one is, of course, that browsing, looking around experience. And then in that time, you're starting to pick up as quickly as possible in the products or service that you want to buy. Right? And then that's also an element that needs to be as simple as straightforward. Then, of course, the next one is the basket time, when you've got to make sure that everything you've added into the basket is calculated automatically, that you know how much you're paying in the checkout process. How many times you've been on the website, you added 2 or 3 products, you go to checkout, and then when you're about to check out, there's only 1 product in there. 2 others are missing. So maybe you've spent maybe half an hour browsing around and picking up on the products, and then suddenly they're not there. So you have to go back again, and then spend another 4 or 5 minutes to get to that stage. Maybe it doesn't work again. So there's no live updates of what's happened with that shopping journey. Of course, the checkout process is also another element that needs to be simplified as much as possible, because that's the time when conversion happens, right? And you can't afford to get this wrong. So, as we said, how do you do that? You'll do that by analyzing the journey for every individual customer to start to get this understanding. And then, of course, the last but not least is the process where you start to engage with people that decide to become your customers. And you can do that in different ways. Some people send them additional guidelines. Some people ask them if they want to follow the brand on Twitter or Facebook or something like that. But this is the time, as I said to you earlier, is the time for that permission marketing. You're saying, okay, you liked what we sell, you bought something from us, give us a chance for you to talk to you again. Permission marketing is an important element that really gives us the idea to do just that. And Seth Godin talks about, in some of his books, about permission marketing as an important and powerful tool in today's digital world. Now, how design affects all of this? Well, we need to understand first and foremost specific needs that our customers have. What are those specific needs that they have? So in other words, we start to build up personal profiles of individual customers. Because different customers have got different needs. Now, trying to serve with one formula fits all kind of shopping journey for every single customer, that's not always possible. We also need to know, as I said earlier, what competitors do badly or very good. What are the things that they do that we need to learn from them? And as soon as you start doing that research, you build up a bigger picture about the things that you want to do. The next is describing visitor personas. Who are these profiles? Who are these people that typically visit our website? And we'll look at a few examples from some of the projects we've done in the past. Define ways to converting visitors into shoppers. What are the specific parts of that customer journey that can help us convert visitors into shoppers. Of course, call to actions are always an important element of it. And then draw out journeys for your customers. Kind of start to build up a journey, what happens with your customers throughout that process. Look to remove any barriers that stay in the way. Everything that can go away needs to go away. Okay? Now, that's why things are changing so fast, because now with the idea of being able to buy something just by logging in, or one-click buy, or things like that from Amazon and other people, it just makes it so easy, seamless. And that's when I said that shopping, online e-commerce should be more about shopping experience and less about paying. The payment process doesn't need to be there, because I've made my mind, I want to buy something. And the last thing I want is to struggle to pay for it. And queue up in the store, struggle to pay online because the phone doesn't work. That's the last thing you want customers to do. Now, of course, develop strong call to actions and design navigation that make it easier to move from one step to another. Now, this is just an example of personas, not a real Karen, okay? But that's how you develop these personas to start to understand who are the people that actually buy into your e-commerce site. Okay, in this case, it was a project some time ago that we looked into, and we started to develop different personas to understand who the people are. Now, Karen's 21, is engaged to be married. She wants to show her boyfriend Gary the types of wedding ring she really loves. She has not bought much from the web, although she uses Facebook a lot. So we started to pick up an idea. She is online, but she hasn't bought. So what do? We need to have reassurance throughout that shopping journey to tell her that whatever data she decides to share with us is going to be secure. Right? That's one thing to pick up from that analysis. Then she's a bit afraid of using her credit card online. She's never done that before. How do you do that? Well, you again offer and provide reassurance throughout that shopping journey. Now, sometimes it's just a text. It's not much of reassurance that brands provide online, but actually that makes a difference. And as you start shopping online, brands start to remind you that everything you're about to do is safe and secure. You say, well, that's good. Feels good. Maybe that's not always the case, but it just makes you as a customer feel good about it. Karen wants Gary to spend £1,000 on a ring. He can afford it, so he's rich. Okay? But the idea is that imagine the amount of money that they are ready to kind of spend online, but then of course pick up on the ideas of what are the things that you can introduce into that journey so it makes her convert, because that's going to be quite hard, especially for someone who never bought online. She wants to let him make the final choice so that it is a surprise. So are you giving her a chance to maybe save those products that she's searched for so that she can share with her boyfriend? So these are some of the things that help you identify and discover features that needs to be included in the website. Now, the other thing, of course, is learning to develop personas. Now, not only for every little project of yours that you're involved, you start to think and develop at least 3 to 4 personas that you can group some of them maybe by age, job, motivation, needs, and things like that. Consider their familiarity with the brand, consider their needs and worries, define their persona's customer journey. So you start to build up a bigger picture about what customers need from you. Now, a customer journey that was developed some time ago by Professor Jonathan Briggs at Kingston University is that he's kind of worked out, and this was a journey that was developed in 2007, so things have changed. But the way how he looked at different touch points into that customer journey is quite important, because he looked at the articles, landing page, home page, and how things organize themselves before they get into the checkout process. Now remember, as we evolve into the online shopping experience, we start to kind of take away some of these things. In fact, with one-click buy now from Amazon and things like that, actually you don't have to go through most of these things at all. You can just sign in and then just click one buy and then move on to the next level. And that's what is also helping, for instance, payments with PayPal, right? As soon as you sign in with your email and password, it'll just get delivered to your address. You don't have to worry about anything else. The only problem with that one is that you might get your products delivered to the wrong address, or to address that you've been using in the past and you don't use it anymore. And that's what happened to me a few weeks ago. I bought something using PayPal, and apparently it sent me to the previous address that I don't even live there anymore. Just because I forgot to update my address in PayPal, and because PayPal, as soon as you sign in, you just say pay for this, you actually forget to check the address that product is being sent to. Of course, now the next thing is, how do you develop those customer journeys, and what are the ways of doing that? Now, those of you who've been involved in technical type of projects, you probably know this, but even if you're not a designer, even if you're just a manager, or you're someone who's setting up your own business, you start to build up like a blueprint of how your website needs to be structured. From the website specification and the mind map of how the website functionality works, to every single individual wireframe that we call for a designing page. Wireframe is pretty much just a blueprint of what you want in each page to have, from functionality to images to the text to the links and things like that. So you start to build this before actually designers or developers actually start to do any work whatsoever. Now, those of you who've been involved, you already know this, but it's an important element to do that, because that actually comes down to you, whether you're a designer or not. You've got to do this to build up an idea what your website will look like. In fact, it's something for you, especially those of you who are aiming to build your own e-commerce shops for this module, for this course, actually to start thinking about it and building these wireframes and knowing how you want your website to be organized. Now, with Shopify and Ticktail as well, you can probably organize. You're not as flexible as you want to be, but in most cases you can rearrange things and design maybe your own themes if you're technical enough, or maybe just get somebody to kind of develop a theme for you while you kind of organize everything else. But of course, this just helps you to kind of build up an idea about how you can do that. Now, there's several tools you can use to develop wireframes. It can be done online. You can use OmniGraffle if you're a Mac user, PowerPoint, Concept Draw, Visio, and lots of other apps online that offer you for free to do just that. Wireframes may or may not be used to define a layout, but mostly they are there to start to build up an idea of what do you want to have, what are the elements that you want to have on that page. Wireframe journeys will allow the basics working on the site to be signed off before it actually gets developed. So whether you're doing this yourself and you're one-man band business, or you've got a large groups of people that help you out, these are most of the time pretty much the processes where things get signed off before they actually design, develop, and prototype. So they are pretty much the logic of the site to be explored through implementation and the process that you plan to do. Okay, now before we finish, tutorial for next week's activity is in there. I'm going to get into details, but you can read that yourself. It's a bit of work, a bit of research that you need to do, but it gives you an idea about more what we talked about today and the role of the customer journey and the development process and things like that. So please take some time to do the research, so when you are in the tutorials, you already have some data and some insights that you want to share with us.